So in this video, I want to show you how Manus AI is actually creating some really interesting applications. It's somewhere between Claude and a Lovable or Replit. So it's not quite a company that's building out full-on applications for you, even though you can have little mini tools. And it's not quite only an LLM, but there is some level of agentic features, meaning it's actually doing work for you, generating code, and doing research and putting that all together. So let's check out some of the applications that I've built using Manus. Now, I use this as part of my workflow, and then we'll finish it either in N8N or Cursor or Lovable to help get it over the finish line. But for today, I just want to show you how Manus works, and you can see if this is a tool for you. So I built out some tools, some worked well, some tools were able to be generated and previewed in the app directly, and some of them I actually had to download and then upload back into Cursor to iterate to take through the last mile, and then I had to use a different tool to create a preview of the app. So there's definitely some work to be done, but it does a lot of the work for you, and there are definitely use cases where it does a better job or sort of fits in between Claude and Lovable or some of those other tools where Lovable might be overkill and Claude just doesn't give it enough oomph. So the key pain point I was trying to solve is when you go to the auction sites, you then have to go research the keyword volume and then try to find where you can buy it to see if it's available. Sometimes you can find it on the auction and you have to do additional research to see if that traffic is appropriate. This goes ahead and does that research for me, and it only took a few minutes to do that. It actually did find a couple good deals for me. I created a high traffic keyword from GoDaddy. So basically my prompt and goal was to find highest traffic natural language keywords based on GoDaddy's auction site. I'm on the auctions a lot. This bad habit of mine is buying domains, but I identify 100 high traffic keywords that are for auction. And what I did was have it go through and identify that. And then it asked me more specifics to clarify its research. So that was really helpful to think through things I hadn't thought of. And so provided those answers, and then it did some thinking and built out a little tool, asked me some more questions before it finalized. All right, so we're going to look at the result. And it looked through beyond, obviously, Namecheap and Flippa, since it looks like that GoDaddy wasn't directly accessible. All right, so it created a CSV file. So we can see that, okay, we can preview this here and see what some of these options are, how much they cost, their score, age, where we can buy them, and the category. All right, great. And bids and then time left of their availability. All right, so not bad here. So let's look up the traffic to validate that. Okay, so we went ahead to use WordStream right now just to get a free assessment of this domain to see the traffic. So let's check out maybe these first two. Okay, great. Artificial Doctor has about 5,000. Okay, not bad. Now let's go to investments. Find where it's located on the page. All right, so 18,000. All right, so that was actually a pretty good deal if you could buy it for $1 and already has some search volume. So very cool. All right, so it looks like it did a good job. Okay, so another use case is I used it for doing data analysis. I've actually found this to be pretty good, even though Claude also does a really good job at data analysis. So I asked it to actually look at Replit's data bounties. I scraped what Replit's page where it said the bounties were basically people put bids for different tasks. I found it odd that there were a lot of them out there that weren't getting taken, and I realized that people are basically underbidding. But I wanted to do an analysis, so I asked Manus to do that. So I scraped that data, I uploaded it in a CSV format, and then I prompted it to analyze this data and what are common bounties, what's the average cost of the job, and what are 10 insights about this. And so it went ahead and created some visualizations, and here was the key insights. The average bounty is about $135.01. So this is interesting too because it did some math for me, and this actually turned out to be accurate. So that's a key interesting point. So the reliability of it doing math, LLMs are not always able to do math well. The most common bounty keyword is app. appearing 146 times. And then it provided some other just interesting stats from doing analysis. And most of this actually looked correct when I validated it. So let's go ahead and see it visualized in this data. All right, so it basically wrote most common keywords in the bounties, which let's see if you can see this. A little hard to see here, but over here it says app, web, data. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this big guy is app, web, bot, data, create, using, build, IPO. Okay, so most of this is more development based, which you can tell based on the keywords. So that's one insight. And then it basically provide the pricing. So most of these guys are not saying they want to pay much to do this. So there's this interesting misperception happening where people are saying, okay, it's so easy to build this, and yet I need someone to help finish the app where that's actually where it's hard. And I don't want to pay anything for it. So there's a mismatch happening right now when it comes to actually building out AI apps and AI tools. There's people want to not have to pay, think it's easy, but in the end actually need help to get that extra 10%, which is expensive. That's where the software engineers and their big brains, and that's why people pay them the big bucks, is to actually get to that finish line. All right. So the distribution of bounty prices. So again, most people don't want to pay much. All right. And the due dates and time frame. So this showed how long these have been on the market. So there's been some of the bounties that have been for months and weeks. I don't know what other refers to, but it looks like, again, people are not actually taking these jobs on, at least from Replit. So that was another cool application of Manus where, again, Claude probably wouldn't do as good of a job for research unless you've built in some MCPs or other sort of agentic capabilities. And then finally, let's do some other visualization, and then we'll do one more. So another example was I have been scraping a bunch of Twitter user stats for some folks and basically seeing their follower count over time. And so I uploaded basically a tracker of a bunch of people and over the weeks how they have been performing. And then I uploaded it and we just wanted to visualize that data. So this you could probably do in Cloud and get away with, but here's what it summarized. And it just allowed to do actually more visualizations than Claude would typically probably do. So it provided 8. So let's see. Okay, these are very small charts. So that's a drawback and not ideal. This said the top 15 accounts. All right, much better. Okay. Follower count trends for the top 5. So there's definitely some outliers where we'd have to normalize some of that data. This basically showed some of the ranking and follower growth, which was great. And I didn't provide that data specifically in a column. Correlation by initial follower count and total growth. So not too many insights here, but this was interesting overall. Okay, weekly follower growth by some of the top accounts, distribution of follower growth. All right, so this sort of did a number of core analyses that you would want to do on just growth. Okay, and then it created this little analysis tool that didn't come out in a very visually accessible way, but basically gave the takeaways of each of those. All right, fourth example is using Manus to create a directory. So I wanted to research a list of AI agents available and create a comprehensive directory of them by their name. And I provided some other details that it wanted to make it filterable and sortable. So it then went ahead and again asked me, actually, this time it didn't even ask any additional feedback. Oh, no, it did ask me some additional feedback and then it explained what it was doing throughout the process and took some time to do it. And then here we go. Okay. So then it created this little tool, which is pretty great. This I thought was, it did a really nice job of creating this directory. Now we want to have a backend to be able to make it accessible, and then actually aggregate some of these things since it created Anthropic Artifacts, Enterprise, and 3.5 and made those separate agents, which you could argue again how you want to organize that and provide more instruction. But again, this is pretty incredible. So Claude would probably be able to do this, and Lovable would also be great to do this, but this brought up their website. Great. So it linked to the sites. So that was another very cool use case. Okay, so as you can see over here, I built a little app called a logo downloader. So as you are filling out visual content, logos always seem to come up, at least for business use cases. And it's really annoying to have to go research individual companies and have to then go download each one individually. So I built a little tool to help do this in bulk. So first off, I just asked it, create a tool where I type in a list of companies or websites, or I upload a CSV file of companies, and then it queries and provides PNG files of each logo. Each logo file will have the name of the logo in PNG format, for example, mcdonalds.png. And then I can download those images into a zip folder. So you can obviously build out some functionality or ask it to do so, but I think it's better to start off with bite-sized pieces. And again, this is not the tool to build out a full-blown application for the rest of this workflow. But let's see how it does. It did some research and it basically said what it was doing. So just like many other ones, we'll walk you through its process and thinking. And then it asked me a number of questions before it could proceed, which I had to answer. So would you prefer web-based or command line for logo extraction? Do you have any specific format requirements for CSV? And do you need any additional features like resizing? And are there specific design preferences for the UI? So I was kept this simple for the time being. Then it took that feedback and actually built out a little tool. So let's see what it built for me. Okay, so we're going to build out Microsoft, Tesla, product hunts, and then let's find our discount swarming in San Francisco. Let's see how that works. May take a few minutes. And Manus usually does take some more time to generate. Okay, so logos could not be extracted. Okay, so Tesla was a curveball. All right, so this one didn't work out so well. All right, let's try it again. Okay, Microsoft, Tesla, Apple. Okay, so it looked like it struggled a bit with this, so this is not a good demo. Okay, so again, this needed some work. But Manus was able to handle some great visual data analysis, building out, again, simple apps of data structuring and doing, again, some agentic research for me that would have taken a number of steps. So Manus definitely has a place in your workflow and process for certain use cases. And I will continue to use this and share any updates as I find more ways to use this within my workflow. So enjoy. If you liked this video and found it helpful, leave a comment below, help and subscribe, and thanks so much for watching.